Many people believe that starting an SIP automatically guarantees good investment results. After all, SIP are widely promoted as one of the simplest ways to invest in mutual funds. You choose a fund, invest a fixed amount every month, and allow compounding to do the rest. But in practice, the long-term success of an SIP depends less on the technology of automation and much more on investor behavior. Small mistakes in decision-making such as choosing funds randomly, stopping SIP during market corrections or constantly reacting to short-term performance can quietly reduce the effectiveness of long-term compounding. The good news is that most of these mistakes are not complicated to fix. In this video, we will look at some of the most common SIP mistakes beginners make in India and discuss simple ways to avoid them so your long-term investment journey remains disciplined and effective. One of the most common mistakes beginners make is starting an SIP without defining a clear financial goal. Sometimes, investors begin because a friend recommended a particular fund. Other times, they simply hear that SIP are a good way to invest and start immediately. But without a defined goal, it becomes difficult to make the right investment decisions. Your goal determines several important factors, including which type of mutual fund you should choose, how long you should remain invested, and how much risk is appropriate. For example, money meant for a goal that is only 2 or 3 years away should not be invested in high-volatility equity funds. On the other hand, long-term goals such as retirement planning or wealth creation can benefit from equity-based SIP with a longer investment horizon. In simple terms, an SIP works best when it is connected to a purpose. When you know what the investment is meant to achieve, the rest of the investment strategy becomes much clearer. Another mistake many beginners make is selecting mutual funds purely based on recent performance. It is very common to see investors choosing funds that delivered the highest returns over the past year. This behavior is usually influenced by recency bias, the assumption that if a fund performed well recently, it will continue performing well in the future. But financial markets rarely behave in such a predictable way. A fund that delivered very strong returns during one market cycle may underperform in the next. Instead of focusing only on short-term performance, a better approach is to evaluate consistency. This includes examining how the fund performed across multiple market conditions, how stable the investment strategy has been over time, and whether the fund management approach has remained consistent. Long-term investing rewards steady performance more than short bursts of popularity. Another common SIP mistake is creating an unnecessarily complex portfolio by investing into many funds. Many beginners assume that holding several mutual funds automatically improves diversification. In reality, this often leads to portfolio overlap and confusion. Several funds in the same category may hold very similar stocks, meaning that the investor is not truly diversifying but simply duplicating exposure. A simpler portfolio is usually easier to manage and monitor. For most long-term investors, holding a small number of well-chosen funds can be more effective than spreading investments across many similar options. Keeping the portfolio structure simple also makes it easier to review progress and stay disciplined over time. One of the most damaging mistakes investors make is stopping their SIP when the market declines. Market corrections often create anxiety because portfolio values temporarily fall. This can lead investors to pause their SIP contributions until the market looks safer. But the reality is quite different. Market corrections are actually when SIP become most effective. When prices fall, each monthly SIP installment buys more units of the mutual fund. This helps reduce the average purchase cost over time. When the market eventually recovers, the larger number of accumulated units contributes to stronger long-term returns. For long-term investors, market volatility is not necessarily a threat. It can often be an opportunity. Another set of mistakes comes from behavioral patterns rather than investment strategy. Some investors expect to see strong returns within the first year of starting an SIP. When markets move slowly or temporarily decline, they begin to doubt the investment process. But SIP investing is designed for long-term compounding, not short-term performance. Meaningful results often appear only after several years of disciplined investing. Another behavioral mistake is reviewing the portfolio too frequently. With many apps providing daily updates, investors may feel tempted to check their investments every week or even every day. Frequent monitoring can encourage emotional reactions to short-term market noise rather than focusing on long-term progress. A more balanced approach is reviewing investments periodically while allowing enough time for the strategy to work. Some SIP investors make the mistake of prioritizing investments before establishing basic financial protection. Before committing significant money to long-term investments, it is important to ensure that certain financial foundations are already in place. This typically includes maintaining an emergency fund, having adequate health insurance, and ensuring financial protection for dependents if necessary. Without these safeguards, unexpected situations such as medical expenses or job disruptions may force investors to redeem their investments at unfavorable times. Automation is another important aspect of maintaining discipline. Setting up automatic SIP payments helps ensure that investments continue regularly without relying on manual reminders or memory. Consistency is one of the most powerful advantages of SIP investing. Successful SIP investing is rarely about finding the perfect fund. More often, it is about maintaining disciplined behavior and avoiding common mistakes. When investors stay focused on long-term goals, keep their portfolio simple, continue investing during market volatility, and allow enough time for compounding to work, SIP can become a powerful tool for building long-term wealth. In the end, consistency matters far more than complexity. By avoiding the common mistakes we discussed today, you give your investments the best chance to grow steadily over time.